Not too long ago, we were talking about, Fanon's boomerang, about how colonial violence eventually makes its way back home. We're already seeing that. U.S. militarized policy in the region has now kind of replicated itself on the border between the United States and Mexico. And we're also seeing troops on the streets of the United States Capitol, acting like thugs, grabbing and arresting whoever they feel, acting with impunity. And if you let them get away with regime change in the world, what makes you think that they're not willing to push that same boundary against your own friends and neighbors? They're already kidnapping them, sending them off to gulags in El Salvador or camps that are uninhabitable in Guantanamo Bay. So I do think that there is a very important lesson for the U.S. population in all of this as well. Obviously, as I said earlier, they've been subjected to massive amounts of propaganda when it comes to Venezuela. A lot of them probably have a very negative view of Nicolás Maduro in particular. But I would hope that they would be able to push past that and be able to understand what's actually happening here, especially given, as you said, what's happening in the world. Never has it been more obvious what the true face of U.S. imperialism actually is. And before we say goodbye, I wanted to bring up a couple of articles here we have on the website that get into the details of this. We have this analysis from our columnist Clodovaldo Hernandez, the cartel of the suns, leftovers that were never edible. The U.S. is recycling debunked claims about Maduro and Venezuelan officials being connected to narco-terrorism. It's an excellent breakdown of just how outlandish all of this really is. I particularly like this graphic that we made for it, showing Mr. Burns unable to eat his own radioactive fish, and I think it captures it well. But I also wanted to share this one here from Michelle Elner, a friend of Venezuela analysis, Trump's Venezuela drug war gambit and the militarization playbook at home. Solidarity activist Michelle Elner takes stock of the Trump administration's escalating rhetoric, militarization, and migrant crackdown, where she connects a lot of those dots that I was just talking about. The foreign agenda and the domestic agenda are actually not all that different. And in fact, there's actually a lot of interplay between them, which is dangerous for the peoples of Latin America, who simply want to be free and pursue their own sovereign project, and also the peoples of the United States, which are now facing a very authoritarian, aggressive government in Washington.
For sure. I do recommend people to read the Clodovaldo Hernandez article because he does explain very well what are the origins of Cartel de los Soles and how this narrative has grown. And he also points out something that everybody should know, that Hugo Chavez was also accused of leading every single criminal organization that existed in the world back then. So this isn't new. It's not like, oh, this is just for Maduro because Maduro is really bad. No. Hugo Chavez was accused of practically the same things. So this is something that is the same reheated narrative being revived every few years when it's convenient for the United States. And there's a quote by Clodovaldo Hernandez that I wrote down because I thought it was important. He says in the column, the purpose has always been the same in Venezuela as elsewhere with leftist or socially oriented governments, to criminalize popular movements and demonize their leaders. So this was true when Hugo Chavez was president. This is true now that Maduro is president, and it's going to continue to be true as long as Venezuela has a socialist-oriented government.
And just the other day, we came across this video of Hugo Chavez basically saying the same thing. They will say whatever they think will work in order to convince the population that something untoward is happening in Venezuela and something must be done. But fortunately, we have Venezuela analysis, we have your viewpoints. This conversation has been excellent about unpacking all of that and getting to the root of these threats by the United States against Venezuela, how serious it really is. Again, I think it's important for us to maintain a state of alertness when it comes to this, because Trump really is in a lot of ways unpredictable, and I think would be liable to do just about anything if it meant advancing his own agenda and his own priorities.